December 16, 1944. 0525 hours. Lanzerath Ridge, Belgium. The Ardennes forest is a frozen ghost, blanketed in 2 feet of fresh snow that muffles every sound like a shroud. You can almost feel the biting wind slicing through your wool overcoat, numbing your fingers around the cold steel of an M1 Garand. In the dim pre-dawn haze, First Lieutenant Lyle Bouck Jr., just 20 years old, but already carrying the weight of command, shifts in his log-reinforced foxhole, peering down the ridge toward the sleepy village of Lanzerath below. His breath fogs the air, mixing with the faint scent of pine and damp earth. Around him, his 18-man intelligence and reconnaissance platoon from the 394th Infantry Regiment, 99th Infantry Division, huddles in a line of dugouts, their positions camouflaged by the drifts. These aren't frontline grunts. They're sharp-eyed scouts, college boys pulled from the Army's specialized training program, trained to slip through shadows and gather intel, not hold a hill against hell itself. But here they are, plugging a 5-mile gap in the American lines, with 4 artillery forward observers from Battery C, 371st Field Artillery, bringing their total to 22 souls. Tech Sergeant William Slape checks his watch in the warming hut behind the line, a makeshift log cabin where the men rotate to thaw their bones. Private First Class William Bill James Tsakanikas, known as Sack for his Greek roots, stamps his feet to keep circulation going, his bar slung over his shoulder. Private John Krieger scans the Treeline, carbine at the ready. They've got extra firepower scavenged, Browning automatic rifles, a .30 caliber machine gun, and a Jeep-mounted .50 caliber beast that could chew through anything. Tripwires with pebble-filled cans dangle in the woods, ready to rattle at the first intruder. The night has been quiet, too quiet, in this ghost front sector where the war feels like a distant rumor. Then it happens. A low rumble builds from the east, like thunder rolling in from Germany itself. Shells scream overhead, slamming into the ridgeline with earth-shaking fury. Tree bursts explode in the canopy, showering shrapnel and splintered pine. The ground heaves under Bouck's boots as a 90-minute barrage from 1,600 German guns unleashes across an 80-mile front. Suddenly, without warning, Bouck would later recall, a barrage of artillery registered at about 0530 hours and continued until about 0700 hours. The artillery was relentless and frightening, but not devastating. Much landed short, wide and long of our position, and mostly tree bursts. Phone lines snap like twigs. The SC-300 radio crackles to life as Bouck reports in, heavy shelling. Positions holding. Down in Lanzerath, Lieutenant Warren Springer and his observers, Sergeant Peter Gackey, Technician 4th Grade Willard Wibben, and Technician 5th Grade Billy Queen, duck in their requisition house, the walls shaking as explosions blacken the snow outside. They suspect betrayal, a local civilian, perhaps, tipping off the enemy. Vehicles from the 820th Tank Destroyer Battalion's 2nd Recon Platoon rumble past, half-tracks and jeeps fleeing the village in a panic. The TDs are pulling out. Bouck radios to Major Robert Kriz at Regiment HQ. What should we do? The crackling reply. Hold at all costs. As the barrage lifts, an eerie silence descends, broken only by the drip of melting snow from branches. Fog rolls in, thick and cloying, reducing visibility to a ghostly haze. Bouck orders patrols. Slape and Krieger slip down to a village house for better eyes on the road. The men in the foxholes grip their weapons tighter, hearts pounding in the cold. Private Risto Milosevic adjusts the .50 cal on the Jeep, his breath steady despite the adrenaline. Corporal Aubrey McGee and Private James Silvola share a quick word, nerves taut, but resolve ironclad. Then, through the mist, shapes emerge. German searchlights pierce the dawn, bouncing off low clouds to illuminate the advance. Bouck grabs his binoculars, columns of troops, mottled camouflage blending with the snow, moving west through the Losheim Gap. These are no ordinary infantry. Paratroopers from the 9th Fallschirmjäger Regiment, 3rd Fallschirmjäger Division, about 500 strong, raw conscripts but armed with deadly STG-44 assault rifles. Led by I.G. von Hoffmann, they're the spearhead, tasked with clearing Lanzerath for the armored juggernaut of Kampfgruppe paper, the 1st SS Panzer Division, roaring to life miles behind. Sleip and Krieger, cut off in their observation post, freeze as Germans flood the village. Hiding in a barn, they crawl under cows for cover, Sleip wincing as he bangs his ribs on a beam. Back on the ridge, Bauk spots more. 100 paratroopers crossing the open meadow below, oblivious to the eyes watching from above. A 13-year-old girl, Tina Thalen-Scholzen, bursts from a house, shouting in German and pointing frantically at the road. Bauk tenses. Has she spotted them? She retreats inside, and the Germans press on. The platoon holds fire, letting the enemy pass to avoid revealing positions too soon. But the noose is tightening. Bauk radios for permission to withdraw. Enemy advancing in strength. Denial crackles back. Remain in position. Reinforcements will come. The men exchange glances, apprehension creeping in like the fog. Private Louis Khalil chambers around in his carbine, the metallic click echoing their unspoken fear. And then, the first shots ring out. Down below, Krieger engages a German platoon slipping through the woods, dropping several with precise fire. Chaos erupts. The Germans wheel, realizing they're not alone. Bauk's voice cuts through the din. Hold your fire until my order. But the battle has begun, and what these 22 Americans are about to unleash will rewrite the timetable of the entire German offensive. 0605 hours. The fog clings like wet wool. Bauk's voice is low, almost a whisper, carried along the line of foxholes. Wait for it, wait for it. Now, the ridge erupts. 18 rifles, 2 bars, and the Jeep-mounted .50 cal open up in one savage, synchronized roar. Muzzle flashes stab the gray dawn like lightning. The leading German company, about 150 men, is caught completely in the open, halfway across the snow-covered pasture, bunched together in marching formation. The first volley drops 30 of them in seconds. Men crumple, scream, claw at the snow. The rest scatter like startled birds, diving for cover that isn't there. You can almost taste the cordite hanging in the freezing air. Spent casings tinkle onto the frozen lip of foxholes. Private First Class Joseph McConnell, on the .30 cal water-cooled, walks long bursts across the meadow, the barrel glowing dull red even in the cold. The .50 cal, manned by Risto Milosevic and Carlos Fernandez, hammers with a sound like tearing canvas, punching fist-sized holes through tree trunks and men alike. Germans try to drag their wounded. The .50 stitches the snow crimson around them. Bauk is everywhere at once, calm as ice, voice cutting through the din. McGee shift left. Khalil, 2 more clips and reload. Sakanicus, every man knows his sector. The fire is disciplined, almost surgical. They are not spraying and praying. They are killing with terrible efficiency. Down in Lanzerath, Sleip and Krieger hear the storm break above them. Sleip whispers, Jesus Christ, the boys are giving it to him. They stay hidden, hearts hammering, knowing that if the ridge falls they're already behind enemy lines. The Fallschirmjäger commander, Hauptmann Erich Stober, a veteran of Crete and Monte Cassino, cannot believe what he's seeing. His battalion is supposed to be brushing aside light screening forces, not walking into a meat grinder. He screams orders. A machine gun section tries to set up in the village. Sakanicus on the bar catches them in enfilade, cutting the crew in half before the MG-42 can even spit a burst. For 40 minutes the meadow becomes a killing ground. German bodies lie in windrows. The survivors crawl backward, dragging wounded, leaving blood trails that steam in the snow. Stober pulls his men into the tree line south of the village and radios for support. He is furious, humiliated, and suddenly afraid of 18 invisible Americans who fight like devils. At 0650 hours, a fragile lull. Smoke drifts across the ridge. The Americans frantically reload, ears ringing, fingers numb. Bauk crawls along the line. Anybody hit? Miraculously, not one man has taken a scratch. The log-in earth bunkers, the perfect fields of fire, the discipline, everything has worked. But the radio crackles with Major Kriz again. Expect armor soon. Hold the ridge. Help is on the way. Bauk doesn't answer. He knows what every man on that ridge already feels in his gut. No help is coming. Not today. Through the lifting fog, German movement again. This time cautious. Scouts in white camouflage smocks probe the barbed wire and the trip cans. A sniper's round cracks, Private James Fort drops one of them at 300 yards with his Springfield .03, the report rolling like distant thunder. Bouck glasses the road to the east. His stomach tightens. Through the haze, he can now make out the unmistakable shape of half-tracks, assault guns, and the low, predatory silhouettes of Mark IV tanks. Kampfgruppe Papers Vanguard, already hours behind schedule because a handful of American kids refuse to die on a forgotten ridge. The Germans are about to get serious, and the 18 men of INR Platoon, 394th Infantry, have not yet fired their best shot. 0715 hours. The ridge smells of gunpowder and pine sap, sharp and acrid. Bouck wipes frost from his binoculars, his gloved hands trembling not from cold, but from the weight of what he's seeing. The meadow below is a slaughter pen. German dead sprawled like broken dolls, their Feldgrau tunics dark with blood, faces frozen in shock. 90 bodies, by his rough count. Nearly a fifth of Stober's battalion gone in the first furious exchange. But the enemy isn't broken. Not yet. From the tree-line, muffled commands in guttural German drift up, carried on the wind. Mortar tubes thunk softly, and seconds later, 81mm rounds arc toward the American positions, blooming into dirty yellow bursts that pepper the snow with shrapnel. Down, Bouck bellows, diving into his foxhole as a shell detonates 10 yards left, spraying dirt and bark. The impacts walk closer, methodical, probing. One clips the warming hut's roof, sending Tech Sergeant Slape scrambling out with a gash across his forehead, blood trickling warm down his temple. He ignores it, grabbing a radio handset instead. This is INR Platoon. Mortars incoming. Request counter-battery fire. Over. Static hisses back from Regiment HQ. Then nothing. The lines are cut again, or worse, ignored. In Lanzerath, the artillery observers hunker in their shattered house. Springer barking coordinates into his own set. Grid 123 to 456. Enemy mortars. Fire for effect. But Battery C is miles back, tubes silent under the German barrage. Private First Class Martin Marty Giegengak, the platoon's medic, darts between positions, his aid kit slung low. Keep your heads down, boys. Ain't nobody dying on my watch today. He patches a superficial wound on Corporal McGee's arm from a ricochet, the iodine stinging like fire. McGee grins through gritted teeth. Doc, if this is your idea of a Merry Christmas, next year I'm staying home. Laughter ripples faintly along the line, nervous, defiant. But it dies quick as another mortar crumps nearby, rocking the earth. The Germans adapt. No more mass charges into the open. Instead, they creep forward in small teams, white smocks making them ghosts against the snow. A squad flanks left through the woods, trying to envelop the southern foxholes. Private Tsakanicas spots them first, 5 shadows slipping between birches. His bar bucks in his hands, a 20-round mag emptying in a stuttering fury. 2 Germans pitch forward, one clawing at his throat. The others bolt, leaving a trail of red droplets on virgin snow. But for every one they drop, Bouck knows 10 more are circling. By 0800, the fog burns off under a weak winter sun, turning the battlefield into a stark tableau. From his command post, a deeper dugout ringed with sandbags, Bouck sketches the enemy dispositions on a grease pencil map. Main force pinned in the village, probes to the north and south, and now, the armor. There, on the road from the Losheim Gap, 3 Panzer IVs grind forward, turrets swiveling blindly, treads churning mud into slush. Behind them, SD, KFZ, 251 half-tracks disgorge more paratroopers, who fan out in skirmish lines. Stober's voice booms from a bullhorn, urging them on. Vorwärts. Die Yankees sin Schwach, Totet Sie. Bouck's mind races. The .50 cal could maybe knock out a track or two, but the tank's 75mm guns would turn the ridge into Swiss cheese. He signals Milosevic, hold fire on the armor. Concentrate on the infantry dismounting. The .50 roars again, scything through the half-track's open rear, dropping half a dozen as they leap off. One tank lurches to a halt. Its commander, Obersturmführer something or other from Papers SS, bailing out with his crew, hands up in bewildered surrender. Bouck's men cheer hoarsely, but it's short-lived. The other panzers button up, main guns traversing toward the flashes on the ridge. A 75 mm round screams in, slamming into a pine 50 yards behind the line. The tree topples like a felled giant, crashing across two foxholes and burying Private Fort under splintered trunk and branch. Man down, Krieger yells from his forward post, but he's pinned himself, trading shots with a German MG nest that's finally found a foothold in a ruined barn. The air fills with the sewing machine chatter of an MG-42, 9mm rounds zipping like hornets, stitching the snow inches from exposed helmets. Bout crawls to Fort's position, heaving the log aside with Slape's help. The private groans, leg pinned and mangled, but alive. Feels like a goddamn baseball bat hit me, LT, Fort gasps. Jijingak's there in seconds, morphine surette jabbing home, tourniquet cinching tight. Hang in there, Jimmy. We're getting you out. But out where? The rear is a void. No medevac, no relief. Bauk locks eyes with Slape. The unspoken truth hangs heavy. They're alone. As the sun climbs, casting long shadows over the dead, a new sound joins the fray. The deeper cough of Nebelwerfer rockets, screaming meme eyes to the GIs. 6 tubes ripple fire from the tree lean, and the world turns to fire and thunder. The barrage pins the platoon, forcing them low as the ground quakes. In the chaos, a German assault squad surges up the slope's right flank. 20 men, grenades pinwheeling through the air. Private Khalil meets them with his carbine, dropping the point man at 10 yards, but a potato masher arcs over the lip of his hull. It bounces once, time slows, and explodes in a flash of yellow, shrapnel tearing into his shoulder. Khalil slumps, blood soaking his field jacket. I'm hit. LT. Bauk drags him deeper into cover, pressing a compress to the wound. The first American down. The ridge, once invincible, now bleeds. And across the valley, through the smoke, Bauk glimpses more. Endless columns marching west, the tide of the offensive swelling behind this single, stubborn knot. How long can 21 hold against 500? The answer is coming, and it will break hearts on both sides. 0930 hours. The sun is a pale coin in a steel sky, doing nothing to warm the blood-soaked snow. The ridge is no longer quiet. It has become a single, continuous roar of gunfire, punctuated by the hollow boom of tank guns, and the Germans now fire blindly uphill, shells detonating in the treetops and showering the foxholes with steel rain and pine needles. Every American weapon is red hot. The water jacket on McConnell's .30 cal has boiled dry twice. Men piss into it to keep it firing. The .50 cal's barrel is cherry red. Fernandez wraps it in a wool scarf soaked in snow just to change it without burning his hands. Bauk's voice is hoarse but steady. Short bursts. Make every round count. They can't get through if we keep their heads down. They do. 4 straight hours the 18 men, now 19, since Khalil is back on his carbine with his arm in a sling, fight like a single organism. The Fallschirmjäger try everything. Rush after rush is thrown back. Flanking teams are cut down in the wire. A daring MG-42 crew drags their gun to within 50 yards of the left foxhole. Takanicas and Silvola empty 3-bar magazines into them in under 10 seconds, leaving the gun twisted and smoking, its crew shredded. The cost is climbing. Private Jordan is hit in the throat by a sniper. Jijingak crawls to him under fire, but the arterial spray paints the snow bright red before the medic can even open his kit. Corporal McGee takes a round through the calf and keeps firing prone, screaming curses in a voice raw from cordite. The .50 cal Jeep finally dies when a direct 75mm hit flips it onto its side. Milosevic and Fernandez diving clear with singed eyebrows and ringing ears. Yet the line holds. The Germans now litter the slope in heaps. One pile of 15 bodies tangled in the barbed wire like rag dolls. Another 20 sprawled where the .50 stitched them as they tried to cross the road cut. Hauptmann Stober paces behind a half-track, face purple with rage, screaming at his company commanders. His battalion was supposed to be in Hansfeld by 0800. It is now almost 1,000, and he has not gained a single yard of the ridge. At 1015, the unthinkable happens. A white flag appears. 4 Germans step cautiously from the tree lean, hands high, one waving a Red Cross cloth. Behind them, Stober and 2 officers walk forward, unarmed. Bauk orders an immediate ceasefire. The ridge falls into an eerie silence broken only by the moans of wounded and the distant rumble of idling tanks farther back. Stober halts 30 yards downslope, binoculars around his neck, iron cross glinting at his throat. In heavily accented English, he shouts up, "American commander, you have fought bravely, but you are surrounded. Surrender now, and you will be treated correctly. Resist further, and no quarter will be given." Bauch stands up in full view, helmet off, blonde hair plastered with sweat and dirt, and cups his hands. "Tell your men to go to hell, Captain. We're staying right here." A ripple of weary cheers rolls along the American line. Stober's face hardens. He salutes stiffly, almost in admiration, then turns on his heel. The white flag disappears. 10 seconds later, the storm breaks again, heavier than before. This time the Germans throw in their last fresh company, supported by 2 assault guns that lumber up the road, 75mm guns barking at point-blank range. Shells tear huge gaps in the earthworks. A direct hit collapses Private Silvola's foxhole. They dig him out unconscious, face black with powder burns, but breathing. 1,100 hours. Ammunition is down to a few bandoliers per man. The bars are clicking empty. The .30 cal has maybe 2 belts left. Bauch crawls the line again, voice calm, but eyes burning. "Fix bayonets. If they come over the lip, we meet them hand to hand." Every man who can still move slides the long blades home with a metallic snick. And then, for the first time all morning, something shifts in the air. A new sound, distant but growing. Engines. American engines. Half-tracks. Tanks. The men dare not hope. Bauch raises his binoculars with shaking hands. Through drifting smoke, he sees only more German reinforcements pouring into Lanzerath. King Tigers now, monstrous 68-ton beasts from Paper's spearhead, grinding past the stalled infantry. No American relief in sight. The sun climbs higher. Frost turns to slush under the heat of battle. The ridge is a charnel house, and still the 18 refuse to break. But the mathematics is cruel. 500 determined men, supported by armor, cannot be stopped forever by 19 rifles and a prayer. The final assault is coming. You can see it forming below like a dark wave. And when it hits, the world will remember what happened on this ridge for the rest of time. It is gray with smoke, black with powder burns, and red with the blood of 300 German paratroopers. The slope looks like a battlefield from Verdun, not 1944. The air reeks of diesel, cordite, and the coppery stink of slaughter. Hauptmann Stober has committed everything. His last 2 companies, maybe 220 men, form one dense assault line across the meadow and road. Behind them, 3 Mark IVs and a Stoogie 3 roll forward in echelon, guns firing as they advance. Machine guns in the village and on the half-tracks lay down a continuous curtain of fire that forces every American helmet below the parapet. Bauch's voice is almost gone, reduced to a croak. "Pick your targets, wait till you see their eyes, then give him everything we've got left." The men obey like it's Sunday practice. The remaining bars chatter in short, vicious bursts. The .30 cal, now on its last belt, stutters until the barrel droops molten. McConnell keeps feeding it anyway, hands blistered raw. Private Tsakanicas fires his bar from the hip until the magazine is empty, then swings it like a club when a German reaches the wire 5 feet away. The buttplate caves the man's helmet. Both go down in a tangle. One by one, the American positions begin to die. The left flank foxhole is hit by a direct 75mm shell. Private Krieger, still cut off forward, sees the flash, then nothing. When the smoke clears, only shredded logs and a single boot remain. Corporal McGeehee's hole takes a phosphorus grenade. He crawls out engulfed in flame, rolling in the snow, screaming until Jijengak smothers the fire with his own body. Both men lie still. The command dugout receives 2 direct hits. Bauch is thrown clear, ears ringing, blood streaming from his nose, but alive. 1,205 hours. The Germans are in the wire. Bayonets flash. A Fallschirmjäger vaults into Private Fort's hole. Fort, leg already broken, meets him with a trench knife, and they grapple in silence until both stop moving. Bauch, half buried in rubble, sees the line cracking. He drags himself upright, Thompson submachine gun in hand, and empties a 20-round stick into the gray mass surging past the .50 cal wreck. 5 Germans drop, The rest keep coming. For one frozen moment, the ridge is a swirling melee, rifle butts, entrenching tools, fists, screams in two languages. Then the weight of numbers tells. The remaining Americans are forced back to the rear slope, fighting from tree to tree, rock to rock. Bauk gathers the last 8 men still on their feet around the ruins of the warming hut. Slape, Sakanicus, Silvola, concussed but conscious, Jijingak, Fernandez, James, Khalil, arm useless, and himself. Ammunition, maybe 50 rounds total. Weapons, for rifles, 2 carbines, 1 Thompson with half a magazine, and whatever grenades are left. They form a tiny semicircle, backs to a shattered stone wall. The Germans fan out, cautious now, almost respectful. Stober's voice rings out again. Surrender, Lieutenant. It is finished. Live. Bauk looks at his men. Their faces are black with powder, eyes red-rimmed, but no one is running. Sakanicus spits blood and racks the bolt on his empty bar just to hear the sound. Slape gives a tired grin. Hell of a morning, sir. Bauk stands. He fires the Thompson's last rounds into the nearest knot of Germans, then throws the empty gun at them like a challenge. Come and get US it. The final rush comes at 1,230 hours exactly. The 8 men meet it standing, bayonets fixed. No retreat left. The wave breaks over them like surf on rock. And then, suddenly, unbelievably, it stops. A German lieutenant blows a whistle. The attack halts 10 yards short. Hands go up, American hands. Bauk's Thompson is long gone. His fists are clenched, ready to fight barehanded. A Fallschirmjäger sergeant steps forward, rifle reversed, and gently pushes Bauk's arms down. Capitulieren, Herr Lieutenant. Es ist genug. You have done enough. Bauk looks around. Every one of his men is wounded, some gravely. The ridge is theirs no longer, but the cost. Mein Gott, the cost. Stober walks up the slope alone, stepping over his own dead. He stops in front of the 20-year-old American lieutenant, clicks his heels, and salutes. Not the Nazi salute, a soldier's salute. You have cost me an entire battalion, Herr Lieutenant. And you have cost the Führer his timetable. Bauk, swaying on his feet, returns the salute with a bloody hand. Behind Stober, the road to the west is finally open. King tigers growl past the village, treads crushing frozen corpses. Kampfgruppe paper roars toward the Meuse, 18 hours late. 18 hours bought by 18 American boys who were never supposed to fight at all. The prisoners, 15 survivors, 7 too wounded to walk, are marched down the slope under guard. As they pass the meadow, hardened Fallschirmjäger step aside in silence. One old sergeant, a veteran of Stalingrad, mutters to Bauk in passing. Wart die besten Soldaten, die ich je gessen have. You were the best soldiers I have ever seen. Bauk doesn't answer. He is staring at the bodies of his men still lying where they fell, snow already beginning to cover them like a white shroud. The Battle of Lanzerath Ridge is over. But what those 18 men did that morning will echo through the entire Battle of the Bulge, and through history forever. December 16, 1944. 1,400 hours. The guns have stopped talking, and the forest itself seemed to exhale. As the 15 walking survivors of INR platoon are herded into Lanzerath's village square, the scale of what just happened begins to sink in, first for the Germans, then for the prisoners themselves. The square is a makeshift aid station. German medics work frantically over rows of wounded Fallschirmjäger. The 1st Battalion, 9th Fallschirmjäger Regiment, has ceased to exist as a fighting formation. Official German casualty returns, filed 2 days later, will list 92 killed outright, 207 wounded, many permanently, 11 missing, presumed shredded by the .50 cal. Total, 310 casualties out of roughly 500 committed. Nearly 62% losses in 6 hours against an enemy force 1/20th their size. Hauptmann Stober sits on an ammunition crate, head in his hands, while a runner from Kampfgruppe paper screams at him. Axen stunned in. You have given the Amos 18 hours. The runner is Obersturmbannführer Joachim Paper himself, immaculate black uniform splattered with mud, eyes like chips of ice. He stares at the blood-soaked ridge as though it were a personal insult. Paper's timetable, Hitler's timetable, called for his 117 tanks and 5,000 elite Waffen-SS to reach the Meuse bridges by the night of the 17th. Every hour of delay allows the stunned American command to wake up, shift reserves, and blow bridges. Those 18 hours will prove fatal. Bauck and his men are lined up against the stone wall. A German cameraman from propaganda company 694 films them for the newsreels, expecting broken, sullen prisoners. Instead, he captures something else: exhausted, frostbitten, blood-caked American kids staring straight into the lens with a look that makes even the cameraman lower his lens for a moment. No fear, only contempt. A Fallschirmjäger medic kneels in front of the badly wounded Private Silvola, cutting away his uniform to treat a sucking chest wound. He works gently, almost reverently, then looks up at Bauck and says in halting English, "Your men, unbelievable. Like Spartans." Bauck, voice raw, answers, "We were just doing our job." The medic shakes his head. "No, Herr Lieutenant. Spartans were 300. You were 18. 1,700 hours." The prisoners are loaded onto canvas-sided Opel trucks for transport to a rear-area hospital and then prison camp. As the convoy rolls west through the Losheim Gap, the men see the direct result of their morning's work. Mile-long columns of papers armor snarled in traffic jams, burning fuel they cannot replace, while American J-bows begin to prowl the skies now that the weather is lifting. Every destroyed culvert, every blocked intersection, every panicked retreat of support units is a ripple that started on Lanzerath Ridge at 0530. In the lead truck, Lieutenant Bauck sits beside Tech Sergeant Slape. Slape's forehead is bandaged. Bauck's ribs are cracked, but both are alive. Slape nudges him, nods toward the stalled tigers. "We really did that, didn't we, sir?" Bauck watches a king tiger belch smoke as its crew tries to winch it out of a ditch. "Yeah, Bill, we really did." Years later, when historians reconstruct the first day of the Battle of the Bulge, they will discover something astonishing in the German war diaries. Because the northern shoulder was delayed 18 critical hours, 6th Panzer Army never achieved the planned breakthrough. The 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend, supposed to exploit Paper's thrust, was still east of the start line on the evening of the 17th. The 1st SS Panzer Division reached Stavelot only on the 18th, too late to stop the Americans from blowing the vital bridges. Fuel depots at Spa and Stavelot that were supposed to fall intact on the 16th were torched by retreating GIs on the 18th and 19th. One ridge, 18 men, 6 hours of defiance. It did not win the Battle of the Bulge alone, but it broke the spine of the northern thrust on the very first day, turning a potential German triumph into a desperate, murderous slog that ended in the snows of January 1945. The prisoners will spend Christmas in Stalag 6G, then be liberated in April. Every single one of the 15 survivors will make it home. 7 of their comrades remain forever on Lanzerath Ridge, beneath simple white crosses that the people of Lanzerath still tend to this day. And on May 13, 1981, in a ceremony at the Pentagon, an 81-year-old Lyle Bauck Jr. will step forward with the 14 living members of his platoon to receive the Presidential Unit Citation. 4 of them will also pin on the Medal of Honor, the Silver Star, or the Distinguished Service Cross, the most highly decorated platoon-sized action of the entire European theater. But on that frozen afternoon in 1944, as the trucks carry them into captivity, none of that matters yet. All that matters is the ridge behind them, quiet at last, wearing its new white cloak of snow over the blood of both sides. And somewhere in the silence, if you listen very carefully, you can still hear 18 American rifles speaking with one voice. Not one step back,